I don't know what I'm doing. Hello beautiful people and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Sophia. I'm 18 years old and I just started making videos on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, then stop what you're doing and subscribe to this channel right now. And while you're at it, make sure to give a thumbs up to this video. I recently asked on my Instagram for video ideas for this channel, and the first and most requested idea was a study tips / hacks video. So today I'm here to spill the tea, or hot lemon water in my case because I'm basic, on my study life / academics and how to make your studying as effective and productive as you can. Before I start, I want to give you some background on myself and my high school situation. So I'm a senior in high school. For those of you not familiar with the American system, that means I'm in grade 12 or in my final year of high school. Additionally, I take the International Baccalaureate, a rigorous academic program where you have to take 6 college level courses, write a 4,000-word dissertation or extended essay, complete theory of knowledge, essentially a philosophy class where you have to produce an essay and a presentation, and to also complete a certain number of creativity, activity, and service hours. Having said that, I take 6 IB subjects. At higher level, I take history, politics, and English literature, and at standard level, I take biology, French language and literature, and math studies because I appreciate my free time and I wanted to make my IB experience as painless as possible. And I still failed. That's enough background, so let's just get straight into the video. The way that I like to plan and stay organized is by having a digital planner and a paper planner. My digital planner is my Google Calendar. That's where I set all of my deadlines, notifications, assignment due dates, anything that is time sensitive. I love using Google Calendars not only because it's easy and I can sync it with my phone, but also because I can set reminders for myself and alarms for whenever I have an upcoming test, a meeting, or any kind of deadline. I also like to keep a paper planner so that I can always have it with me and to have a physical reminder of all the things that I need to do and how I want to plan them out, organize them, essentially be organized. This applies to both your high school experience in general, but especially when you're studying or preparing a project, assignment, whatever it may be. The next tip is to know your syllabus inside out. I once heard someone refer to the syllabus as the train tracks of your course. This is 100% true. If you're doing a structured course like an IB class or an AP course, then you especially need to pay attention to your course syllabus. This just means you need to have a rough idea about what topics you need to cover, what theories you need to know, and especially if there's any specific examples or case studies that you need to have memorized and be able to use in the context of an exam. For me, I knew that I had to pay particular attention to the syllabi of my courses because a lot of my courses were very content heavy, like politics, history, and biology. And so I knew beforehand that I needed to know a lot of facts, dates, theories, and just general information that I would need to use during my exams, and it wouldn't be enough to just have a general idea of what I needed to know. So pay attention to the syllabus of your course. Make sure to take note of any specific examples or case studies that you need to use in your exam, and also use it as your rough outline for revision. I like to split my revision into subjects, obviously, but then go into topics and subtopics within those same subjects. Third tip is to get creative. Now I'm gonna insert a little clip of what one of my biology notebooks looks like now. As you'll be able to tell, it's very colorful. I use different fonts, different sizes, lots of highlighting, diagrams, pictures, etc. And what you probably can tell is that I'm not afraid to get creative and visual with my notes. And that's something that I want to encourage you to do. I know so many people who don't like studying because they find it boring, but I actually have found a way to make studying, which is something that I need to do a lot in my IB, something fun, and also to be able to use it as a creative outlet. So if you're finding studying boring, or if you're getting stuck while trying to revise for a test, then make sure to make your notes a little more creative and fun, and you'll also be able to benefit from this when you're actually taking your test or your exam. Something that I found is that when I'm in an exam setting, I like to think back at my notes, and because I make them so colorful and distinct, I can actually remember specific facts or dates just from thinking back to my notes. For example, I'll be writing an essay and I'm trying to think, okay, Cold War. So I think about one of my Cold War mind maps and I'll be able to say, okay, so I need to use this date or I'll use this fact. I can instantly make a connection between my notes and what I'm actually doing on an exam, which has been super helpful so far. If you're always studying in your bedroom or in one specific place, you're probably going to get bored and eventually you're not going to be as productive as you can be. But something that I like to do is to study in multiple places. I like to study in my bedroom, in my dining room, in the kitchen. I also love to go out and go to a cafe or somewhere where there will be people around me who are also working and where I'll feel more pressured to work. But next time that you get bored in your bedroom or in the library or wherever you may be studying, think about switching up your location and you'll see that you'll instantly feel more productive and refreshed. My next tip is to study smart, not hard. Now, we're all guilty of spending countless hours revising when all we're doing is actually using our phones and half-heartedly taking notes or doing some kind of studying. But what I recommend is to use something called the Pomodoro technique. This is a time management strategy where you work for 25 minutes and then you take a break, and then you work for another 25 minutes and take a break, and you can keep on doing this for as long as you would like. And each of these 25-minute increments is called a Pomodoro. Before you start, you can say, for example, I want to do 4 Pomodoros or 5 Pomodoros. What I like to do before I use this strategy is to plan. So whenever I go into each of these time increments, I have a specific task for myself. It's usually something like complete one mind map or complete a set of flashcards. It's something specific that I'll be able to work towards at the end of the time, and by the time I finish the Pomodoro, I can say if I successfully completed my study task or if I need to keep working on it, in which case I'll give myself another 25 minutes or I'll finish that task and then start something else during the Pomodoro. Something that is super important when you're studying is to understand your learner's style and to be able to apply it. Now, I found out pretty early on that I was a very visual learner, and so I've been able to use several visual strategies to enhance my studying. As I mentioned earlier, I like to use mind maps and very visual notebooks to study, but I also love to use flashcards and other visual resources that make my studying as productive as it can be. You might not necessarily be a visual learner, but I'm sure you have a preferred learning style, in which case it's best for you to recognize it and to be able to use it. If you're an audio learner, you're probably going to want to watch lots of videos, informative TV shows, documentaries, maybe even make yourself voice notes or memos, reciting some notes or explaining course concepts. Talk to your friends about the content of your test and just generally be in tune with the content by listening and talking about it. If you learn best by doing, then get in the lab and do an experiment, and while you're doing the experiment, explain the theories to yourself, maybe act out or do some kind of role play explaining your concepts. Really, anything where you're active and where you're trying to apply or explain the concepts will help you memorize them. Tip number 7 is to know how and when to apply your course concepts. As I mentioned earlier, I take politics, which is a very theory-heavy course. If I just understood the theory behind the course, I wouldn't actually be able to score well on the exam. Part of understanding the theory is knowing when to apply it. What I've been doing to be able to understand and apply theories is to have a theoretical framework but also practical examples. So for example, for politics, I have notes which detail different theories and concepts that I can use during my exam, but I also have a list of case studies that link back to these theories that I would use as examples in an essay. Similarly, for history, I will make essay outlines and mind maps. You take more science or math heavy courses, you already know that it's not enough to understand the concept, but you need to be able to use them. So again, do lots of practice papers and tests so that you can actually see how well you really understand the theory or the concept. My next tip is to go beyond class examples and content. Your course has been designed in such a way so that you can understand the theoretical frameworks of your subject while learning about specific examples or events that apply to the theoretical framework or central ideas of your course. You probably have prescribed case studies or examples that you need to know. There might be a lot of things that aren't necessarily covered by your syllabus. What I'm saying is, go beyond the resources that you're given. Go beyond your textbook, look at different websites, read books related to your subject, and just be able to find examples that you might not necessarily have covered in class, because this will show your teacher or your examiner that you're more engaged in the subject than the average student, that you really care about your subject, and that you're proactive about your learning. You never know, it might even get you some extra marks. Tip number 9 is to constantly quiz yourself. I'm completely guilty of going into a test feeling somewhat prepared, but then sitting down and actually blanking out during the test itself. My number 1 strategy to avoid suddenly losing all the information that you think you've retained is to quiz yourself, because that's the only way that you'll actually realize how much or how little you know. And there's 2 ways that I like to do this. One is using Quizlet, and the other one is using a platform called Kahoot. I like to use Quizlet to make flashcards relating to vocab or specific examples, especially for subjects like biology, where there's lots of terminology, and this way I can really test myself on the concepts of the course. This is one of my favorite active ways to study, and I found that it works for pretty much almost anyone. Now, Kahoot is a platform where you can make online quizzes, and so for example, we've done this in my history class, where we make a Kahoot or a quiz relating to a specific subject or time period, and then the questions will be about a date or about a historical event, about different interpretations. Through the quiz, you can find out how much you actually know about the specific event or time period that you're studying. If you haven't used either of these platforms yet, I'll link them down below. I highly encourage you to use them. They're both free and they're great for studying, and you can even turn it into a game, use them with your friends, quiz yourself, compete against each other, and just make it fun and make it work for you. My last tip is to use a variety of sources and build a collection of study resources. I'll break this down into 2 parts. The first part is to use a variety of sources. What I mean by this is don't always go to your textbook. Look at books that have been written by academics in the field, look at published papers, look at sites online, any other source that works for your subject. If you take more science or math-based subjects, look at study resources that have been produced by teachers or other students. One way that I like to do this is by using BioNinja for my biology class, because it has all the concepts summarized in a very concise manner. Depending on what subjects you're doing, you might find different study sources, but what I encourage you to do is to save these or bookmark them and then go back to them while you're preparing for an exam, a test, an essay, a project, or whatever it may be. What I mean by this is to produce different kinds of resources that you can use while studying. Also, do not throw anything away. The trash can is your worst enemy when it comes to studying, because I've found that I've often thrown away a valuable handout, test, or study resource that could have actually been extremely useful during an exam or a test. Generally, with this tip, what I would suggest for you to do is to produce different kinds of resources that you can use. For example, for history, I have mind maps, essay outlines, and flashcards. For biology, I have flashcards, Quizlet, study notebooks. For math, I have theoretical notes and I have past papers. I have several study resources for my other subjects. So what you should do is think about what works best for you and work on that. If you're very visual like me, create study mind maps, notebooks, flashcards, outlines. If you're a different kind of learner, build up a collection of resources that works for you. Just build up a collection of these resources. Do not throw them away, and use them continuously when you're revising or preparing for your final exams. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel and like this video. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram and my other social media. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any video ideas, make sure to leave them in the comments or on my Instagram. That's all, and I'll see you next time.